So today's sermon is based on the silence of God. It comes from the book of Matthew chapter 15. If you guys have your Bibles, I would like for you guys to open them, but I'll show you the scriptures on the screen too. But it's based on the story about the Canaanite woman who came to Jesus. And it's a very famous story that we've all heard and asked a lot of questions when we read it. The main scripture is in Matthew 15:27. It reads, "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." As I was preparing this message, I was eating. I live alone, so I do a lot of things while I eat. And when I was eating, my dog just happened to stroll by and kind of like looked at me with that puppy eyes, asking for some food. Because I try to be very stern and discipline my dog from not beg all the time, I was like, no, you cannot eat right now. But then it kept on looking at me. And so I tried to avoid it, and I kept on eating. But as I ate, a crumb fell off the table. It wasn't a crumb, it was a piece of rice, but as soon as it fell, it was quick to pick it up and eat it. So, I was kind of inspired by my dog to come up with this message. But, it made me think about our situation and even this scripture that we're going to be reading, because it relates to how we deal with God, and I believe there's a lot of confusion amongst Christians when it comes to how God deals with us on a daily basis, spiritually. So let's read the scriptures together. Hold on a second. Sorry. So this is the full scripture. It starts from Matthew 15, verses 21 to 28. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to a region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from the vicinity came to him, crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The woman came and knelt before him. "Lord, help me," she said. He replied, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dog." "Yes, it is, Lord," she said. "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed at that very moment. When we read this passage, at least for me, a lot of questions came about. So I would like to take you guys to some of the questions that popped in my head, and let's look at it together. Why did the woman address Jesus as Son of David? The reason why I'm asking this question is because she was a Canaanite woman who didn't believe the same as the Jewish people. And yet, she used a messianic title, Son of David. Why didn't Jesus answer the first time? A lot of times, when we cry out to God, it seems like he's silent. Why were the disciples so annoyed by this woman? Then we ask, was Jesus just being mean? And from the statement, who is the lost sheep of Israel? Why didn't the woman just walk away after being rejected so many times? And did Jesus call the woman a dog? Was the crumbs she asked for a small thing? Why did Jesus say she had such great faith? And what is this great faith that he is referring to? Now, those are the questions that I came up with. When you read that question, the Bible passage, what type of questions came up in your mind? Maybe some of these questions that I put up are questions that you could relate with. Maybe you've been praying. Maybe you've been going through something. Maybe you feel down. Maybe you feel like God is silent in your life. But when you read this passage, can you really relate it with yourself? So I want to take you guys to the first passage, verse 22. So a Canaanite woman from the vicinity came to him, crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." Now, when we read this, a lot of times we just kind of like surface read it. We're like, oh, okay, she was just crying out to God or to Jesus. But as I was preparing, I was watching one of those videos where they play out the act of scripture. And when I saw it, it touched me, or it moved me in a different way, because I was able to physically see the woman get on her knees crying. You know, when we see the words crying, we're like, oh, you know, tears a little. But this woman was sobbing. Can you imagine what brings about such sob? I know when my father passed away, I was sobbing. I know when some tragic happened, I was sobbing. Even when I tore my ACL, I wasn't even sobbing like that. So great sorrow brings about this type of tear. So she was in pain. So we have to try to put ourselves in her shoes for a moment to see what type of pain she was in. And only when we put ourselves in her shoes will we be able to understand where she's approaching. You have to remember that she came from a pagan nation. And she, according to Ellen G. White, she had visited all the doctors that she could. So imagine going from one doctor to another and not being able to get help from them. When I was young, I'm still young. When I was younger, I had eczema, or I still do have eczema, but it's not as severe. As a little child, going through an eczema was very painful. I had to visit doctor after doctor, get shot after shot. Even to my late 30s, eczema was crazy. In fact, I will show you a gruesome picture. If you see here, that's me. Yes. So, yeah. Ooh, I should turn that down. So if you look at my hand, that's just a portion of it. It was from the top of my head to the bottom, like everywhere. It was just like just leaking, and it was just crazy. I couldn't bear it. In fact, it wasn't just the scars. It wasn't just the leaking, but the itch was so crazy. What went through my mind was suicide even. Like, if I die, I wouldn't have to go through all this pain. And I couldn't sleep. I was sleep deprived because all night long I would be scratching. In fact, my blanket would be like from brand new to red the next morning. That's how bad it was. And I would sometimes, as you saw see my hand, I would want to chop off my hand. That's how bad it was. And only recently am I kind of overcoming the eczema problem. Now, do you think my mother prayed for me? Do you think my father prayed for me? Absolutely. But how long did it take for me to actually kind of overcome this? Yeah, I had it since I was born actually. And I still have it in my age right now. Now, it's not as visible as you see in the picture. Let me go back so you don't have to keep looking at my other face. But it was bad. And so one day, I was so tired. I was angry at God. I couldn't even go out because I used to have these toilet paper to stop the leaking from my face. So I would go out bandaged. I would usually wear a hat so people couldn't see my face. Yeah, and I used to wear a mask. But even with the mask, the pus and all this stuff would leak out. And at the end of the day, because of the crust, when I took it out, it would reopen the wound. And it was like every day, like it got worse. And the yeah, I'm sorry for the description. But I just want you guys to know how bad it was. So one day, about 2.5 years ago, this is a little bit prior to me actually coming to Timmy University. Because if you saw me then, I still had eczema on my face. So around that time, I prayed to God. And don't get me wrong, I was constantly praying about this. And only recently, and you guys, a lot of you guys know my age, I'm in my late 30s. Only recently did it start going away. Now, why am I telling you this story is sometimes God seems silent. I don't know why now God is allowing me to overcome this, but I cried a lot about this. I mean, I was so ashamed to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay home. And so I prayed, I cried, and one day I was so angry at God. I just said, you know what? Why don't you just take my life? I'm tired of this. And it wasn't really nothing when I look back, but at the time, it seemed like everything. I couldn't function. And so, when I was preparing this, I was able to kind of put myself in her shoes. The type of tears for her daughter that she was seeking from Jesus. The words suffering terribly comes to mind because that's exactly what I went through. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have suffered terribly, but if you look back at the terrible suffering, what comes to mind? I don't know about you guys, but when I look back, I can only see the grace of God. The fact that I'm alive, the fact, all the things that I went through. When I was in my teens, I was using drugs heavily, and I was involved in gang activity, and I was just living a very lavish, ugly life. During that time, I don't remember a lot of things. I don't remember the parties, I don't remember all the fun I had with my friends, the drinking. But there was one thing that I still remember to this day, and it's when I came home around 4 o'clock in the morning after long partying. My mother came to my bed, and I lay down, and I didn't really want to, talk to my mom or anything at that time because I was drunk, I was under the influence, and I just wanted to go to sleep. But at that moment, she just knelt and started crying and praying for me. And when I think back, I mean, now that I'm a Christian, it breaks my heart at what my mom had to go through. So, what made her continue to cry out to God, even though I never changed? And causing all the trouble, what made her steadfast in her prayers? I guess love could be the only answer for that. There are a few passages I want to share with you guys. The first passage comes from Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 2. This prophet, prays out to God, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you violence, but you do not save?" Now, sometimes we feel like Habakkuk. We're like, violence, so many crimes, so many bad things going on around us, and why are you not saving us? We may have that same question. But when we look at the Bible, and with our finite eyesight and mind and understanding, we could see certain spiritual aspects that we were not able to see on a daily basis if we did not read the Bible. One of them comes from Daniel chapter 10, verse 12 to 14, and I'll just read it. Then he continued, "Do not be afraid, Daniel, since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. And now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns a time yet to come." So, we all know Daniel had prayed for understanding. But the answer didn't come right away. Why? Because Satan, or the kingdom of Persia, which is equal to Satan and his dominions, resisted him for 21 days. Now, you may find it odd, but sometimes there may be a spiritual battle taking place that we cannot physically see. You know why it took Israel 40 years to enter the promised land? Well, there's many factors. But in God's eye, it was perfect timing. And I truly believe, though we can't understand because, again, our vision just falls short right in front of us, we a lot of time ask God and question His plans, question His power, His plans for us, and a lot of times we want to give up just because He doesn't answer according to the way we want Him to. It's almost as if we see God like a genie. You rub on the genie lamp and then poof, He comes out. What are your wishes? My wish is for this pain to go away. I want it now. And when it doesn't come, what do? God isn't listening. God doesn't care. God doesn't exist. How many times have you thought that? I know I have. Even when I was studying here, I shared this with a lot of you guys. Before coming to Timmy University, I was scammed. I lost a few $1,000s. I actually let somebody borrow my name so they could get a loan, a little big chunk of money I didn't have. I didn't know anything, but I let them use my name. And when the person couldn't pay, guess what? They came to me. I didn't know anything about it until well into my first year of attending Timmy University. I didn't have money. I was still like trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my tuition. And I was kind of like confused, like why? Like I have to compete against all these Korean students. I couldn't even study. I haven't studied for a very long time. I was like just in pain. So one early morning, I started to pray to God and asked Him, "You're not fair. You're not fair." At first, it was silent. And then, when I said, "Why are you so unfair? Why is all these wicked people, they have money, they have cars, they seem to have this highway to success, and here I am, no matter how much I struggle, no matter how much I'm fighting, no matter how much I'm trying to live a good life, no matter how much I'm trying to evangelize, nothing." I was mad. But then, I said, when I asked Him the second time, "Why are you so unfair? Why are you not just?" He answered me, "You're right. I'm not. Because if I was just, you wouldn't be alive." Think about it. All the crimes that I had committed in the past, all the sins that I had committed, and here I am complaining about my life now. God rebuked me with that one word, showing that if I was to receive justice, I would not be living. God showed me that, and I was like, wow, such a shock. The last passage I want to read to you is from 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Because of these surpassing great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Why I wanted to share this is because sometimes God allows circumstances, situations to happen, not so we can suffer, but to show everyone in the midst of our weakness, God is able to bring about great things.
Amen.
If I didn't go through all the trials and tribulations, I honestly think I wouldn't be standing here. I think I would have trusted in my own power, ability, because, I'm prideful. I used to think I was the best at everything I did a long time ago. But only when I humbled myself and saw how empty I was, how small I was in the sight of God, it was only then that God was able to work in me a work that no other could do. And it was only through these experiences that I was able to learn about the grace of God, learn about the love of God, and how He works and His character. Now, Paul here, I believe it was his eyesight, but he asks Jesus to remove this from him 3 times. But 3 times he doesn't, and at the last one, he tells him, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is, or my power is made perfect in weakness. I don't think you understand this. The more we live, the less God could work in our lives. That's why sometimes when we are on our knees trying because our life isn't as enjoyable, that's when we seek God. That's when we empty ourselves and search ourselves to see where we are with God. And only then God is able to come in and work in our hearts. If we had a good life, guess what? We wouldn't seek God. Let's be honest. If we had all the riches, if we had everything that our desired wish for, guess what? Why would we seek God? There's no reason to. So, as she was crying out to Jesus, we see the disciples. Here we have the quotation from the Desire of Ages, and I wanted to read this to you. Annoyed by her importunities, the disciples asked Jesus to send her away. They saw that their master treated her with indifference, and they therefore supposed that the prejudice of the Jews against the Canaanites was pleasing to him. But it was a pitying Savior to whom the woman made her plea, and in answer to the request of the disciples, Jesus said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Although this answer appeared to be in accordance with the prejudice of the Jews, it was an implied rebuke to the disciples, which they afterward understood as reminding them of what he had often told them, that he came to the world to save all who would accept him. There's a lot of, if you read Desire of Ages on the chapter of this Canaanite woman, there's a lot. I just picked one. So the disciples, because of their prejudice towards the Canaanites, and if you know any history, God had instructed them to invade the land of Canaan and completely and utterly destroy them. And so they were enemies with Israel for a very, very long time. So here is this Canaanite woman who the Israelites or the Jews had considered to be enemies, and while she was crying, they're like, please do something, Jesus. Heal her so she could just go away because she's bothering us. Now, a few questions that we need to ask ourselves is, What is wrong with this picture? Why were the disciples so annoyed? I believe one is because they didn't see the woman through the eyes of Jesus, and two, their prejudice was too big for them to see her as a precious stone. When I walk the subway once in a while, I'll see somebody begging for money. And I'll be honest, sometimes the feeling isn't love, it's actually just kind of like, why can't they get a job? Like one of those negative thoughts. But, it's not right, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself because even to think this is, I have to question myself. Is God really living in me? Because if I had the character of God, what would I do? Nothing but pity and love should be there, just like the way He looked upon the woman. But the disciples, when they had this negative feeling, they weren't asking for, okay, why don't you just, make her go away? But it was like, she's bothering us, as if she's in their way. And when you look at it, this is how much she was actually crying out, enough where they were bothered by it. When we know we have to do a good work, when we don't do it, the Bible tells us that it is sin. I wonder how many times I've done exactly what the disciples did. When I needed to do something, I just kind of threw my head. And if Jesus was there, I would have been doing the same thing. Lord, send them away. And so sometimes I can't help but to wonder, is God allowing us to learn something from our experiences of pain? Okay, I put up a passage from Luke chapter 18, verse 1 through 8. Not 18. I'll read it real quick. In the parable of the consistent widow, then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. He said, in a certain town there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared about what people thought. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with a plea, grant me justice against my adversary. For some time he refused, but finally he said to him, even though I don't fear God or care what people think, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice, so that she will eventually come and attack me. And the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, who cried out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? It's kind of odd. Two things kind of pop out. He starts off by saying, then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should what? Always pray and never give up. That's how he starts this parable. Kind of makes you wonder why he started it with this passage. Then, at the very last, the famous that we've always quoted so often concerning the last days, he closes it with, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? Now, it's a bold statement. We always used to say, people aren't living a faithful life, and when Jesus comes, will he find faith on earth? And so we just associate it with how we're living our lives. But here, it's actually associated with a process, a continual process of praying and not giving up. Now think about a race. I used to be in the track and field specialty. When I used to run a marathon, who wins? Somebody who starts good, or somebody who finishes to the end? to the end. Jesus is telling us here that even when we cry out to God, we need to be consistent and persistent. Going back to the story with my dog, when I was eating, the little rice fell on the floor and he ate, or she ate. And after a while, it would just look at me and just beg for a little bit of food. So what do you think? No matter how stern I wanted to be, do you think I just said no all the way to the end, or do you think I ended up giving her a treat? Yeah, it's not like I'm a loving person, but when I looked at the eyes of my puppy, it was like, oh, okay, you win, and I ended up giving the treat. Now, when I did this, it reminded me, if we cry out to God continually, even though sometimes He may seem silent, will He not grant us our petition? That's the question I wanted to ask. Sometimes it may take days, sometimes months, sometimes years, like me. I wonder to myself how many prayers went up to God for me to change my life before I actually changed my life. I wonder how many prayers were sent up before my eczema started to disappear from my face and from my body and everywhere. I don't know. But did I give up? No. Did my mother give up? No. Did my father give up? Of course not. They were persistent, no matter how long it took. And this passage shows us that this type of faith, not one that looks at our circumstances and I know there's a God, but He just seems to be silent. He doesn't hear my prayers, and therefore, I don't know if He exists. That is not faith, by the way. And because this is the type of faith that He desires, when the woman persistently came to Jesus, even though He said what He said, at the end, what did Jesus say concerning her faith? That it was great. This question comes to mind: does God show partiality? A lot of times, as a Protestant, a lot of people used to say, because the Jewish people were a chosen nation, we are less privileged, and later on, the Jewish people will come back onto the picture, and all this doctrinal argument that God is somewhat partial. And even though a lot of Christians don't admit it, by them claiming to be Christians, they think that they have a special privilege. But the Bible shows us that God does not show partiality. In Acts 10:34 it says, I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears Him and does what is right. He does not show favoritism or partiality. And then the question that arises in our mind is, did Jesus really call the woman a dog? Now, if I was in her position and I heard what Jesus had said, I would have been like, did you just call me a dog? No. You know what? I don't need you. And I would have walked away. But she saw something in the eyes of Jesus that other people could not see. Even though the answer on a surface level seems like He's saying no, she saw the compassion that could not be hidden. At least that's what Ellen G. White says in The Desire of Ages. And she was persistent in crying out to Him. Now, if you look here, 2 words for dog is used in the Bible. And the first is, as you can see from the screen, kruon, which means wild scavenger. And the way the word is used is in Matthew 7:6, where it talks about, take not that which is holy and give it to the dog, or give it to the swine where they trample it. So that was the passage that it was used, and that dog is like a wild scavenger. But then there's another word, which is little puppy, cute little household, like my dog. And which one do you think Jesus used towards her? Of course.
I'm glad you pointed that out because never probably anyone points that out. Because, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, that's such compassion for someone of such small.
Right. Yeah, and then actually only after getting my dog did I realize how loving a puppy could be, So Jesus didn't call her like some kind of like just scavenger, but he looked at her as a part of the family actually. Why did Jesus say she has such great faith? And what is this great faith that this Bible is trying to tell us? In Hebrews, it says, so do not throw away your confidence, it will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. These are some scriptures that I wrote down for you guys. And the Bible isn't silent when it comes to Him desiring us to continue steadfastly in His Word. Then, in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 7, it says, the love chapter, love is joy, peace, long-suffering, and all that. It says, love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. So once again, this perseverance isn't just like this one-time experience, but it's something that we need to consistently do with Him and to spend time with Him to see and better understand His will for us. And then in Matthew 24:13, but the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. Again, the one who endures to the end. And let endurance have its perfect result so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. This comes from James chapter 1. In fact, it starts with, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Because the perseverance of your trials develops character. And character, when it's fully developed, it shows its result. So it leads up to this passage. What are these passages showing us? It's showing us one thing, that we need to endure. But also another thing that I wanted to highlight is, does our experience of pain trump the revelation of God in His Word? Did you understand that question? Does my experience trump the revelation of God and His Word and His promises? It shouldn't. Because only when we go through certain experiences of pain and suffering, it seems like we forget about God. Yeah, we cry out to God sometimes, but it's like during that time we question Him too. Does He really exist? Is He loving? Does He care about me? Well, the Bible tells us He does. And in this faith of this Canaanite woman, it is this that Jesus saw in her and commented saying, you have great faith. Because through all the adversity, the disciples, the silence, Him saying that He was only sent to the lost house of Israel. By the way, which I haven't spoken of, who is this lost sheep of Israel? Is it talking about the nation of Israel? Or is it referring to her and everyone else? Everyone else. The lost sheep of Israel was actually her, and Jesus was actually telling her, yes, I will send for you. And we can see the evidence of that from all the Bible scriptures the Bible shows us. God does not show partiality. And so God was commenting on her faith because why? No matter what the adversity, what the experience may have seemed like, she saw through it and saw the character of God. And to the end, she did not give up. And guess what? It was rewarded. When you go through hard times, and I know everyone does, everyone has their own battles, everyone has their own trials, everyone has their own pains. When you go through this trial and tribulation, do you see the loving and compassionate God, or do you see only your problem? Because if it's only your problem, then Satan is doing his job well. You know, the most famous passage in the Bible is what? John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, who remembers the passage right before that? As Moses lifted up the serpent in the air, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that who shall look upon him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's the passage right before John 3:16. Now, he uses that passage of Moses lifting up the serpent. Now, when you look at that passage, because it's directing us towards that passage of Moses lifting up the serpent, but what happened prior to that? People were being bitten by snakes because of their disobedience, and they were losing their family members and stuff like that, right? Well, what was the only way for them to live? To look upon the bronze serpent and to believe in the words that God had given, the promise. What happened to those people who looked at their scar, the bite, the snake that was slithering away? What would happen to them? They would perish. Why? Because their eyes wasn't focused on Jesus. Because their eyes wasn't focused on the character of God. Their eyes wasn't focused on his promises. When the Bible is clear, he gives us his promise and victory. Now, he may not always give it in the way that we desire. And again, he's not a genie. He doesn't always answer us the way we desire him to. But does he answer us? Absolutely. And is he continually loving towards us? You better believe it. As we pray out, if there's anybody going through struggles, doubt, I hope that you will continually be steadfast in his promises of his word, that he will never leave us or forsake us. And anyone who is burdened, the Bible promises us, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Amen. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much. It's hard to see your character through our trials and tribulations. Although your word has told us already that you are loving and everlasting and you have the best interest for us. But we can't see and understand always. Lord, help us to see and understand and to be steadfast in your words. In Jesus' name we pray.